For our team, it's all just about, continually getting back to what we do, is delivering events for the professionals, putting those professionals in front of as many people as possible, and trying to bring, as we said, the sport of triathlon to a wider audience and showcase the capabilities of the professional athletes that are doing the sport. And I think we're going to get that in the Arena Games.
That's Chris McCormack talking about the Super League Triathlon Arena Games that's happening this weekend, 23rd of August in Rotterdam. And this is the Oxygen Addict Triathlon Podcast. Hello and welcome to the Oxygen Addict Triathlon Podcast. We're brought to you every week by our sponsors, precisionhydration.com. Electrolytes in different strengths that match how you sweat. You can get 15% off your first order with the code OxygenAddict15. And we're also brought to you by Peloton.cc. High performance sun protection for athletes. 20% off with the code OxygenAddict20. This week's interview of the week, everybody, got a cracking show for you today. We have got none other than Chris McCormack on the show to talk us through this weekend's upcoming Super League Triathlon Arena Games. So, as I'm sure a lot of you will have seen on social media, obviously Super League Triathlon can't take place in real life, as it were. So they've put together a really innovative format where they're going to have 10 athletes, 10 males and 10 females compete head-to-head, pool swim, Zwift on the bike, and treadmill run, and it's all set up within an arena. It's all going to be streamed live. Macca's on the show to explain all about it, to talk us through which athletes are racing, but it looks like it's going to be our first real taste of proper professional triathlon racing this year. New format, who knows how well it'll work? I mean, as you'll hear in the interview, Macca and his team are a little bit stressed out, I think it's fair to say, with the fact that production's happening. He's going to be doing the commentary from Australia. They've got the filming happening in Rotterdam. It's kind of mind-blowing, really. It's been sent via film via Singapore to put the titles on, back to the UK where they're producing it. Sounds like a crazy amount of things could potentially go wrong. But there's one thing that we love about Super League Tri, is that they are not afraid of a challenge. So I'm pretty excited to hear how it actually works out. I hope you've had a good week. I know it's been boiling hot in the UK for a lot of it. I've been away on my hollybobs. I've been down into Cornwall for a little bit of sea swimming, a little bit of surfing. Had a fantastic time down there. So I hope you have as well. We'll talk a little bit more about some things that I did later on. So first up, news and results sponsored by Precision Hydration. Really nice tie-in here. Some results that happened this weekend. The National 100 time trial in the UK took place, in England took place, and the female race was won by Katrina Matthews, or Cat Rye as she's known. Sponsored by Precision Hydration, she's one of their athletes and a Team BMC athlete as well. She rode the 100 miles in 3:55. She broke the 4-hour barrier, which, to be going faster than 25 miles an hour or 40k an hour for 4 hours is pretty mind-blowing. So an absolutely storming performance from her. Other triathletes that were racing that I saw their names down, Ruth Purbrook, she was racing, did 4:05, and Laura Siddle, I believe, was around the 4:10 mark. So some cracking results from them. Had a go at pulling the full results sheet here, but the only results sheet I could find on the internet is a proper old school Google sheet where the results are not yet in order, so it's just a little bit challenging to work out who was where and who got what. So yeah, big old challenging weekend of racing there. So congratulations to Kat. That's a really great result for her, and obviously it really stands her in good stead for the rest of the season and seasons to come. But that Precision Hydration sponsorship's been in place for a couple of seasons now. It's great that she's been helped by them. If you've not tried the product yet, I encourage you to get over onto their website, precisionhydration.com, take their online sweat test, especially with us having had such hot weather recently. You really need to be taking care of your hydration, and that means not just liquid, not just water. You need to be replacing the equivalent amount of electrolytes that you lose in all the water that goes out with your sweat as well. So someone like me, I'm an incredibly salty sweater. Almost 1,600 milligrams of sodium goes with every litre of water that I lose. So even if I was drinking a standard electrolyte drink, it would still be losing me, close to 1,400 milligrams per litre that goes out. So there's nowhere near enough available in a standard electrolyte drink. We have to have the right stuff. So they make sachets in different strengths to match how you sweat, from 250 milligrams all the way up to 1,500 milligrams. I think they're absolutely fantastic. I use them in my training, in my racing. I use it all the time on the turbo. I have to use it to ward off cramps and on hot days, just to, keep me alive, basically, to prevent hyponatremia. But an interesting thing happened when we were on our holidays. My son got a bit of a stomach upset, 8 years old. I think he got a mouthful of dodgy seawater, but he had a really nasty case of the runs for 24 hours. And although I didn't have like a first aid kit with me, what I did have was some precision hydration sachets. So I mixed up some of that for him, and it really helped him rehydrate, and he noticeably started to look better and feel better, within half an hour of having had that first drink of precision hydration. So all those electrolytes getting in there, helping him rehydrate and getting the salts back in that he lost with having the runs. And I tell you what, there's a real marker of taste here. I often say it's got a really neutral taste and it doesn't bother people. If my 8-year-old son will drink something, it goes to show that they've pretty much nailed the taste of something, because he is a fussy eater and drinker. So hats off to Precision Hydration. If you've not tried it yet, you can use the code OxygenAddict15 to get 15% off your first order. Okay, something else that's going on this week. We've got our Zwift ride on Tuesday night, our OxygenAddict Triathlon Power Hour. Workouts guaranteed to raise your FTP and give you a faster, more powerful bike leg this coming season. So if you've got your eye on, if you've been inspired by some of the time trials that are happening and you want to know how to get better at time trialing, well, one of the things you need to be better at is producing power in the aero position. And that involves firstly learning how to increase the amount of power you can produce. So come along with us on Zwift at Tuesdays at 7:15. Do the structured interval workout. All of the group on Zwift are going to stay together, but having athletes to ride with is really going to encourage you when it gets tough. You'll get encouragement from me on the screen in form of little captions that I've written to encourage you. And the workout, most importantly, will be done relative to your own functional threshold power level. So it doesn't matter whether you're a national 100 TT champion like Kat Rye, or whether you're just starting out in the sport, you're going to progress fastest by training at the appropriate level. So come and check it out. Tuesdays at 7:15 p.m. UK time on Zwift. Right, so before we go to this week's interview of the week, another shout out to our other sponsor, Peloton sun cream. This stuff's great. I'm a really big fan of it. And again, had it with us on the holiday in Cornwall. I've struggled in the past, I don't know if you have, when I've bought cheap sun cream from the supermarket and I've tried to ride or run with it. It feels really gloopy and I end up feeling as though my whole body's struggling to sweat. The great stuff with Peloton is it comes in a squirty bottle. It's that kind of clear liquid stuff. So first up, it's really easy to apply, but the best part about it is it sticks to the skin, not to the pores. So it doesn't block your pores up like cheap sun cream from the supermarket does. So you don't feel as though you're really wearing any sun cream. And it's one of those, they say it's like all day protection. And I don't know how long all day is, but I've been out for significant rides and not had to reapply it. We're talking 4, 5, 6 hour long rides. I've had it on at the beach and not had to reapply it all day, despite having been in and out of the water surfing. It sticks to the skin really well and it's protected a redhead like me really well from getting sunburn. So I suggest giving these guys a try. They're official sun protection supplier to British Cycling, the Great Britain Cycling Team, British Triathlon, and the EF Education First Cycling Team. So they've got pedigree, and they've also worked in the past with Team Sky and been their official sun cream supplier as well. They also sponsor on the down low some Olympic gold medalists in triathlon and Ironman world champions. So you know that when top athletes are trusting them, it's a really good product, okay? It comes in a 200 milliliter spray or a little 60 mil roll-on that you can carry in the back of your bike jersey to reapply as you're going, and this stuff can be a real game changer. So check them out over at peloton.cc. 20% off with the code OxygenAddict20.
And if you go to the link in the show notes, we've got a competition running, or you can visit direct peloton.cc, that's pelotan.cc, OxygenAddict. Really simple competition running there to win a Peloton summer bundle worth £100. It includes 2 containers of 200ml Peloton spray, 4 containers of Peloton roll-on, and 2 Peloton Horizon bidons as well. So just head on over there, enter your name and your email address, and you'll be entered into the competition to win a bundle worth £100. Links also in the show notes.
Great stuff. All right, let's get over and hear from Chris Macca McCormack all about the Super League Tri Arena Games happening this weekend. All right, Chris McCormack, welcome back to the show. How are you doing today, buddy?
Very good. Very, very good. Down in Sydney, Australia. So, yeah. Home.
Well, I'm excited to get you back on, man, to hear all about the Super League Triathlon Arena Games that are coming up. But first up, you're stuck in Sydney. You're locked down in Sydney. The coronavirus hit you and boom, stuck in Australia. Where's your usual home these days? Is it somewhere in Thailand? Is that right?
Yeah. We've been in Phuket for 7 years.
Okay.
I grew up in Sydney, but I really, besides my father being here and my younger brother, Sydney's where I grew up, but it feels more like home now after 5 months being stuck here, but we own a home here but it's home. I think my kids are struggling because they've pretty much grown up in Phuket. I have one daughter at boarding school in Australia, and she's back home with us. But my other 2 kids have literally grown up in Asia, and so it's been an interesting transition. But I must admit, it's my first winter since 1995. So I haven't had a winter for 25 years. So it's the first, and you coming from the UK, it's not a typical European winter, but we had. We get down to 10 degrees in the evening. I haven't been that cold for years.
I'm laughing because I can see in the background through your picture windows there's blue sky and the sunshine. I'll show you what the British summertime looks like out the window here, man.
Yeah, but I know you guys have had a heat wave because I speak to the office in London all the time and they're freaking out because there was a few days over 35 and
yeah,
they were asking.
It's over now. Well, let me tell you.
Asking for days off. Oh, it's finished.
It's 10 degrees and raining here right now, so.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. All right. So listen, Super League Triathlon then. Obviously, plans around the world for racing have been completely scuppered by coronavirus this year. And it feels like, I don't know what it's like down in Australia, but in the UK, this last weekend, we just had our first weekend where 1 or 2 age group races actually happened. They managed to put on sort of socially distanced triathlons with big, wide transitions. And so it feels like there's a kind of transition to normality kind of happening on the one hand, but on the other, all the big races, the big branded Ironmans challenges, they're all getting canned, a month or so in advance. So the big races aren't happening. And I've just seen the announcement that Super League Jersey, you've just had to make the call that that's been cancelled for September.
Yeah.
And out of nowhere comes the announcement, Super League Tri Arena Games is going to happen. So hats off to you guys. You've always done stuff that's different. Who would have imagined 6 months ago you'd been trying to organise shipping athletes in from around the world to an event that's happening indoors where they're going to race on Zwift on both the run and the bike? So tell us about the process that you went through to come up with this harebrained scheme.
That's a good way of putting it because conceptually it works. So our fingers are crossed for next week because, like every event organiser, nobody anticipated coronavirus, COVID-19. I don't think, we were talking in December post a very successful 2 events, planning for a post-Olympic rollout of our first big season. We had all our venues locked down and, we're talking expansion. Things are going great, sponsorship partners, investment money, and then bam, it's off, and it and you can't really sit there and because everybody in the world's going for it, no matter what industry. I think sport got hit very, very hard and entertainment, those sort of things. But when you look around the world, it's been it's just been devastating. So, we sort of sat back and went, okay, let's look at this and let's assess what this may look for us post. Everyone was talking about post COVID-19, but but in the early stages of that, everyone was talking about a single wave type scenario. It was like the game theory was one rollout, 6 months, everything's back to normal. But really the game theory now is potentially multiple waves until we find a vaccine. So we sort of sat down as a group and said, okay, look, here's what we want to do. Here's what we plan on doing. This is where we're going. Now, what are the headwinds we may face with that? And it was the uncertainty of different nations and their traveling and quarantine restrictions. And when you're trying to run a global league and you're flying athletes with different passports all over the world, and, Americans right now aren't allowed anywhere. So, you've got Katie and a lot of our best athletes are from the United States of America. So we looked at basically the way we're rolling out our series and what we planned on doing. And there was discussions about potentially having regional conferences, maybe having a UK-based series and then an American-based series at the American season and an Australasian, New Zealand-based series. And then the winners of those series potentially going somewhere where we could quarantine, like UFC is doing with a Fight Island, going somewhere where we could stay and delivering a race. And then one of actually the junior members of our team, Emily, actually, we were doing a few of the Zwift races just for the athletes, just to get them racing. Because having been an athlete, it's one thing to train all the time, but if you're not racing, it's hard to keep. It's hard to pinpoint what you're doing, and you're just you're just a competitive being. So we saw the uptake of the Zwift racing, and it was cycling specific, and a lot of the athletes were like, well. They sort of got into it, but they're like, look, I'm a triathlete. I'm not really a bike rider, even though I do bike ride. And so we talked about potentially mixing using Zwift to do the run and the bike, and then going to a swimming pool and potentially having a mix of real life and esports racing. And that was thrown up in the air, and everyone sort of laughed in the beginning. And then we sort of had this idea that no idea was a stupid idea. And when we talked about it, looked at it, we went, you know what? This is pretty cool. This could work. And it sort of went from there. And voila, we went to Rotterdam, and there's a lot of cities right now that are saying, look, we want to do something. We want to have a feeling of normality because everybody is locked down. And whilst we want to be safe and do things correctly, we also understand there is a need for interaction. Of humans need to interact and be part of something, an event. So we had a lot of cities that were quite keen to do this, and Rotterdam put their hand up and said, let's give it a try. So here we are. So I don't know how it's going to go. We've spent a lot of time looking at it, and there's a lot of things you have to work through with Zwift. It's an amazing platform, but it is built really for training more than it is for actually racing. So that's been a problem, but I'm excited about it because I know the athletes, when we put it out to them, they were like, I'm in. Everybody was like, oh, like, wow, and so we're excited. And as I said, I don't know how it's going to go. So watch it and tell me if you think it's terrible or horrible or what we can do to fix it. Because, for our team, it's all just about, continually getting back to what we do is delivering events for the professionals, putting those professionals in front of as many people as possible, and trying to bring, as we said, the sport of triathlon to a wider audience and showcase the capabilities of the professional athletes that are doing the sport. And I think we're going to get that in the Arena Games.
Yeah, it certainly looks that way. And talk us through like the logistics of what the race is actually going to look like on the day. It's the triple mix format, right? Yeah,
it's the triple mix format. So the triple mix, for those that haven't watched the Super League race, is 3 individual races. The first race is a swim, bike, run. So the athletes will swim in the swimming pool. They'll get out of the swimming pool. They'll jump onto a stationary bike with their name. We've got a lot of branding. You'll love it. And they have to ride as hard as they can for 4 kilometers. So very, very short, dynamic riding. And then they have to get off that, run to the other side of the pool, transition, and they jump onto one of those banana-shaped treadmills, as opposed to a treadmill that I don't know the names of them in particular.
I'm with you. The ones that you've actually got to power yourself by.
You have to power it yourself. We didn't want a treadmill.
They are
really hard.
This is going to be like it's a knockout.
Yeah, totally. And then they finish on that, and it'll finish. So there's an interaction between. I guess I call with the team, I call it cartoon racing, but it's esports racing. There's an interaction between that online element and those icons that you see racing on the screen and this real life racing. And we're going to really tie in a lot of data and metrics to show the power and a lot of reality and crossover between what's happening on the screen and what's happening in the little booths where the athletes are delivering their workouts. So that's race 1. In race 2, they'll have a 5-minute rest between that. Race 2, they'll do a bike, run, swim. So finish with a swim. 5 minutes rest, and the last run will be a run, swim, bike, but all the same distances. So we mix the disciplines up, which makes it a triple mix.
And how far is the swim and the run? You said it's 4K on the bike.
Oh yeah, sorry, 200 meter swim, 4 laps, 4K on the bike, and a 1 kilometer run. So the racing, we've worked out the racing should take, I may be wrong, between 12 and 13 minutes for the men, and about 14 to 15 minutes for the women.
Okay. And then the game element of them racing on Zwift, will their little computer avatars be able to draft off each other? If they will. They will. Okay. That's interesting.
So we'll be able to race. That's been the logistic. Like, as I said, the idea sounded fantastic. Like, this will do this and do this and do this. And you just assume that Zwift can do all the things that you're hoping it can do. But, it's all the little things that are happening behind the scenes with the team having to, start the races when people are getting out of the pool. As you've got to tie 10 races together into one race. It'll be interesting. It'll be very interesting. But we've done it. We're really, really trying to bring in a lot more of the realism of, having watched a lot of the esports racing while we've been in lockdown. A lot of people are crossing over to their pain caves. You see a little bit of face. We want a little bit more of that, a little bit more interaction with coaches and athlete, and potentially talking to the athlete while they're in mid-race, things that you've never been able to do before because you've never had the ability of being around the athlete. But now we've got cameras on their face. We can walk around. How are you feeling? You're in third place. What's happening? Can you close the gap? They may tell us to get lost, right? But we want to really, really push it to try and give people a better feel for just what these athletes are going through, what they're capable of doing. And I think it's going to be very, very interesting. Pool swimming, there's no sitting on feet. So a lot of the athletes have to punch their own water. And these transitions between the disciplines, transitions are always important, but I think even more so in arena games.
Yeah. And how many athletes have you got, males and females racing?
We got on the professional side, 10 men, 10 women, which was set by the city. And then we have some VIPs, and then we have a junior event, a local junior event. We're running it through the day, and we have some corporates, but it's all part of a COVID plan. We had to submit our COVID plan, how it's going to work, all the spacing, it was a very, and I want to say it, full credit to my team, because it was a sharp learning curve for all of us. I think for anybody who's moving through this space and trying to understand how to deliver it, how to stay safe, how to abide by government rules, and how to deliver a race that works. So, yeah, it's only 10, but there's some superstar athletes. Jonny Brownlee's there, Javier Gomez. You've got Haug in the women's. You've got everybody. Cassandre Beaugrand. The list. It's pretty amazing.
So I was having a look at those before. On the men's side, we've got Gomez, Jonny Brownlee, Richard Murray, Jonas Schomburg, Pierre Lecour. On the girls' side, or the women's side, we've got Cassandre Beaugrand, Annie Haug, Rachel Klamer, George Taylor Brown, and Jess Learmonth from the UK, and Leonie Perriot from France as well. So you have got some really big names there. The one that really raised my eyebrows was having Annie Haug race. Now, she's obviously got incredible pedigree back in short course, and she's best known at the moment for the current reigning Kona champion. But I would never have picked Annie Haug to come race short distance like this. What's your knowledge of the background of someone like her racing someone like Cassandre Beaugrand? Well,
Annie's one of the oldest in the field now on the women's side, but she almost won a world championship at WTS. I think
a couple of years ago, right?
Yeah, 2000, and I might get the year on 15, but I remember she bombed out in that last race. With the utmost respect, Annie, and lost that world title. But I think she's finished second and third overall in WTS, so she has a lot of pedigree, a dual Olympian, and I think for her whole short course career, there was always a discussion she's going to be a magnificent long course racer because she's so good, and we saw that with her success last year in Kona. But when you speak to Annie, her heart, she says, is still she said whilst her body mightn't keep up with what her heart thinks, she still sees herself as a short course competitor, even though she's the Ironman world champion. So I think she'll do well. And the difficult thing, looking at the athletes and having run on the manual treadmills before, I think personally it suits the shorter striding athlete, because the taller you are, like a Cassandre Beaugrand, where you rely on your stride, you tend to overstride on those things. You can't get the momentum to keep the pace up. Where Annie Haug and Rachel Klamer and the shorter, smaller athletes, even on the men's side, Javier Gomez, I think has a big advantage. They run with that low knee lift and that high turnover, and I think I found when I was running on it, if I shortened my stride and ran more more towards the front of my foot, I was able to get up to pace a lot quicker and hold that pace. Even though it felt awkward, it's a completely different style of running. So I think she may do well. It's the swim on the women's side that she may struggle with, because the women's swim power is off charts. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Will you have all 10 of them swimming at the same time? Is the pool?
Yes.
Right. Okay. So you've got a 10-lane pool. They all go. They all jump out. Bikes are there in the arena. Running machines are there in front of them, and it's okay.
Yeah, well, the only one that starts with everyone together is the first one, swim, bike, run. So they'll all stand take your marks, boop, swim, and then they get onto the bike and run. The next one will start on the bike. So they'll all be starting on the bike in the pen and go, and then they'll get onto the run and swim. It's only at one time that they really are all starting together in that swim. That's where you'll see, Jess Learmonth and what's the young Dutch girl, very, very fast swimmer. She's a former national champion. I've got a name here. Incredible swimmer, young junior.
Let me see if I can pull up the names here in the background.
Actually, I'm going to get it right here. I was talking about it yesterday, and I cannot believe, because not Ilaria Zane. Maya Kingma. Incredible swimmer.
Okay.
Incredible swimmer. Like, talking to a lot of the women, I was texting with Cassandra and saying, hey, you ready to go? And what do you think? And she's like, oh, yeah, I'm excited to be racing, but I'm probably not where I am, but I'm swimming well. I said, oh, well, then you should lead the swim. And she said, oh, no, Maya King. I'm like, oh, really? She's like, oh, she's incredible. And she's an ex-swimmer. So she's, the things that triathletes don't really think about is dives, how good you are off the turns, tumble turning, streamlining. These sort of things are going to come into play. And under a racing environment, it's one thing to do it in a training environment where you can flop that turn. It doesn't really matter. But anyone who's swum a hard 200 knows that you need to get those turns right, and seconds matter. So that'll be interesting.
And it's brutal as well, isn't it? 200 meters in the pool, in your own lane with no one to draft off. You can, to a certain extent, you can kind of hide in the open water a bit with the effect of the draft. If you can get on those feet, someone's really got to punch it to swim you off the feet. But in a pool, you can see some big gaps opening even over. It's only got to be a few seconds over 200 meters, hasn't it?
Oh, huge gaps. And I can give you a brilliant example of that. I remember when I had my midlife crisis and I tried to make the Olympics in London in 2012. And I went to the swimming pool, and I was swimming at the time, and I had the opportunity to do a set with Javier Gomez, and they were doing sets of 200s. And I thought, I can swim about a 2.8, 2.10, 200 flat out. He went 2 minutes. I went 2.12. They're in a different, it's ridiculous how much time you lose. And not only do you lose the time, you get out absolutely destroyed. And I find that the better swimmers seem to handle that lactate a lot better than the weaker swimmers. So, I think the pool is going to be the key differential for a lot of them. I give the example of Richard Murray as well, who's an exceptional open water swimmer on feet. He's very, very difficult to dislodge. Greg Welsh was a similar type of swimmer. Not the best in the pool, but put him in open water and they're magnificent. He may struggle here. He may find that the pool swimming a little bit more difficult, but it's going to be interesting. It's all new for everybody. We're all going to be watching it, so we're going to learn as we go. And I'm excited to see the outcome. And I know what pumps me up the most is the athletes are excited, and I think they've just missed racing. And this is a great opportunity to pin a number on again, race your peers, and chase some prize money, because it's been a pretty lackluster year for prize money for a lot of them. Yeah,
too right. Well, the interesting thing as well with Richard, we had him on the show a couple of weeks back, both him and Rachel, and his 5K run that he did in training was I can't remember the time of it now, but it broke the South African road running record, didn't it?
Yeah. But he's I'm watching
sub 14 minutes, wasn't it? Like 13:50 or something.
13:47, I think he went. It was, which is quick running. And then I'm seeing Alex Yee. Like, I'm watching these guys run nowadays. I'm like, man, far out there quick. It's ludicrous. And Richard, Of all the triathletes in the world, and I'm a big fan of Richard Murray because he's always gone about things his own way. He's one of those athletes coming from South Africa with a weak swim. I don't like to say a poor swim. He's developed that swim, and it's got into a position where he's able to win races. He can find himself vulnerable if the swim pace is on, but it's rare now that he's left out or he's left behind. But he's just a guy that is just so well-rounded, such a competitor and such a racer. And even in lockdown, I've been following, he's one of the few I follow on social media. He's just consistent. He's got a good little, him and Rachel just do it right. And he seems to be in a good headspace, and, it was Olympic time when he broke that 5K record. It was close to, he probably would have been going through that preparing for the Olympics, because a lot of these athletes now are going to go, well, look, we're a year out from Tokyo. I'm going to try and get my systems down again and work out what works for me and prep for next year. But I think Richard will do well. I've seen him practicing running on this treadmill. I texted him a couple of times saying, hey, mate, shorten that stride up a little bit. And he said, I've worked that out. So it's he's a fast learner, and he's a true competitor at heart. So I'm excited to see him race. And for him and Rachel, this is pretty much a home race for them. They live around the corner. So it's a lot easier for them to get to.
Well, let me ask you a little bit about the Olympics then. I'm going to put you on the spot a bit here. If the Olympics had gone ahead this year, who would you have fancied for the men's and women's titles? Who do you think would have been in the mix for the podium?
On the men's side, I'm a big fan of. I know he won it last year, Tyler Mislachuk, but having struggled a lot in my career back when television was in black and white. In heat, heat is the biggest differential of Tokyo. And you saw that last year in the test event with Hayden Wild right up there with the Norwegian Kasper Stors and obviously Tyler Mislachuk winning and beating a lot of these guys that were supposed to deliver they've been beating up all year. And literally when they left Tokyo, these guys were back 5th and 6th, 7th place again. So I was looking at those smaller, more compact athletes. I think Tyler would have been very strong. And I like Vincent Louis. I'm a fan of Vincent Louis. I think I would have picked Tyler or Vincent for a medal with a Hayden Wild. Christian Blumenfeld as a dark horse. I hate to not put a Brownlee, there hasn't been a Brownlee not getting a medal for the last two Olympics, but I'm just not sold on Johnny in the heat yet, or Alistair, to be quite honest. Yeah. They'll probably prove me wrong. They always do. It's just two guys talking over a beer, you and me. On the women's side, I thought Katie Safaris it was pretty much a foregone conclusion. She was going to win that thing. But what a difference a year makes, right? When you take a year off, I always say athletes age in dog years. So it's, it starts to bring even more into play the Hayden Wilds and the Tyler Mislachuks for next year. They're a year older, a year stronger, and it starts to inspire athletes like Vincent Louis, who's a little bit older. 1 year is a lot when you're in your early 30s, right? And you start to migrate to longer course racing. So who knows? And on the women's side, Cassandre Beaugrand, who's not really an exceptional 10K runner, she's a year older, a year stronger. Start looking at those younger athletes that have got that extra year now. And I would have put Vicky Holland up there again this year, but again a year older for next year. Who knows? But on the women's side, let's go Katie, Jess, and Georgia.
Really?
Yeah, I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of Jess and GTB, and Vicky. I think the British women are incredible. It reminds me of the old days of Australia. There's so much talent to pick from, and every single one of them is truly worthy of a spot on the Olympic team. And the most difficult thing I think for the Brits now is you can't forget that there's another Olympic medal now, and that's that relay, and you should look at picking a team that suits that relay to some degree. Pick the individuals, and if you are doing that, then I start to look at Sophie Caldwell and these type of athletes that are unbelievable relay racers. Alex Yee on the men's side, and give them that Olympic experience. Potentially grab a medal on the relay side and prep them to go for the individual medal come Paris or Los Angeles. So who knows? You could talk about the Olympics all day.
The mixed relay is something that plays really well into Super League and vice versa, isn't it? Because all of a sudden, and I've fallen into the same sort of, not mental trap, but sort of thought, oh, well, do we blood in the youngsters in the relay to give them a chance for a medal at the, the big one? Actually, I suppose if you win an Olympic medal at the relay, it's an Olympic medal, isn't it? It's
an Olympic medal.
It's a new sport that we haven't seen yet, and it's only because we haven't seen it that we're kind of not giving it the same status as the individual. But I know certainly from a kind of governing body point of view, medals makes funding, and they're going to be, the funding's going to be the same from the relay medals as it is from the individual medals, and so there's all this extra stuff into play, isn't it?
Yeah, we were talking about this last year because I was chatting with Jonathan Hall, the Canadian national coach, and talking with a lot of the French coaches about this Olympics in Tokyo being a relatively strange Olympics in the triathlon scene because some nations are picking relay races.
Right.
So their individual chances are gone, right? They're not even looking. So to some degree, the individual race there could be 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 people that are chasing a medal, but the rest you're going to pull them out of the race. Why run them in 35-degree heat halfway through the run if they're not going to get a medal? You pull them out to prep because the relay is after the individual race. So you don't want to tie relay races. So, and then there's some nations that are picking relay races and thinking that you can win an Olympic gold medal against a French team that the French are all about winning that relay, and they will win. They will be the team to beat. And the Australians now are looking at that themselves going, you know what? We potentially have more of a chance of winning this relay than we do of an individual gold. So we should look at potentially getting that because the funding is the same as winning the individual gold. If not, potentially we could argue it's worth more because it shows the depth of talent in male and female across a sport at Olympic Games. So, that's the interesting thing. And when we a lot of that's why you see the French, the Canadians, the Belgians, the Spanish are now coming over. Those people that saw that in Super League, those high performance programs that saw Super League and went, that is the way to prepare for the Tokyo Olympic Games for the relay. And that's why the French have dominated Super League. And the rest of the world, I've thought, is playing catch up, and it could be at the detriment of their Olympic success because they haven't, they're thinking you can look at Olympic distance racing and just transfer that athlete into a relay team and think that they can win a relay. But you don't pick a 1,500 meter star by watching the 10K results in at the track and field meet, right? It's a completely different sport.
Yeah, exactly. And like you said with Cassandre earlier on, you've got this she's got an incredible punchy swim. She's really quick on her feet over sort of 3-4K. Hasn't quite made that transition to a world-class 10K run yet, but certainly over the shorter distances, she's arguably as fast as a Katie.
Yes.
That's going to be a strength that we kind of, it's come to the fore because we've seen her racing at such high profile in Super League. If it was just down to her results over there, the Olympic distance, you might not be looking at her in quite the same light. But Super League has allowed her to come through and other athletes like that they can actually, there's a lot of confidence gained there from those younger athletes, I think. Take Sophie, for example. She's a world-class star because of Super League. And yet when I interviewed her after Super League and said, talk about the Olympics, she said, well, you've got to remember there's like 5 girls ahead of me for a start at the Olympics. But in terms of someone suited for the relay, it's hard to argue there's anybody ahead of her suited for a place in the relay.
My argument, and we're trying to pick pieces apart in pure diamonds. They're absolute superstars. All of the British female triathlon racers, but as a pure relay racer, I see Sophie Caldwell as Britain's best. But like she would be the most amazing starter for GB that you could possibly have. She's got the biggest start, the big swim. She's so used to being an aggressive biker. She could hang on in those runs. She would set up, say, a Jonny Brownlee or an Alex Yee or somebody by putting them in the position. The last thing you need is a soft not a soft start, but a conservative start to a relay. There's nothing more. There's no more momentum that can be built than getting out from a massive relay start. And I think Sophie is that style of racer. When she came to Super League, the first time she did a triple mix, she blew the field to pieces with her start in the swim. She just went, boom, gone. I couldn't pick who it was. There was 2 body lengths in front after 50 meters. And I'm thinking, she's a star at that type of racing. But like we know, she's not an Olympic distance racer. There's a lot more talent in GB over that Olympic distance. But that's the predicament that the selectors are in, and and we can argue about it forever. And then in hindsight, we can pick it apart even further, can't we? So.
Well, the great thing there is you're not exaggerating with Sophie Starr. I remember I was standing behind her at Malta, and she was a body length ahead by the time she emerged from under the water. So they all start together. Literally, she was a whole body length ahead before she'd taken a stroke. I remember saying to my friend, how has she managed to get, in one jump, she's got so far ahead? So those little splits and differences are going to make the absolute difference when it comes to the Olympics, aren't they?
Oh, on that relay front, and we were hoping, we're sort of showing that with Super League. It is a different sport, a completely different sport, where the refinement of, incremental, tiny mistakes cost you. In Olympic distance, almost the Olympic distance is equivalent, the difference between Olympic distance and an Ironman, between the relay. Like, you've got time, things are slow, you take your time, you run into your rhythm, and you build your pace and you win the race. In a relay, there is just zero. You are flat out from the beginning. You streamline off your dives. Your kick has to come in. You have to nail the swim buoy perfectly. If you're too wide the swim buoy, you lose 3 places. You've stuffed your relay up. So all the little things that make racing so magnificent are amplified come a relay racing. For me, I enjoy watching the relay as much for showing a country's depth, and I do enjoy the mix of men and women racing. I think it brings a real cool element to the sport, but I enjoy the pressure that it puts on the next competitor, and knowing, when you're standing there and the competitor before has set up a lead for you and you have to hold that lead, that pressure when other people are relying on you, when it's an individual sport, you're a bit disappointed yourself, but you let down your teammates. That adds an element of pressure, and I think younger people in that higher intensity of stuff don't tend to realize as quickly how much pressure's on them, and they sort of get to the finish and go, oh, but when older people think about it a little bit more, and they're a little bit more conservative, and they make they make a few of those fumbles and the mistakes. I think experience doesn't come into play as much in the relay racing as it does in the Olympic distance racing, if that makes sense. You're seeing the Australian team that that won the Commonwealth Games, all kids: Matt Hauser, Jake Birtwistle, Gillian Backhouse and Ash General. Matt Hauser was 19, 20. Jake Birtwistle's 22. They're not going to transfer that speed across to the Olympic distance race, but in the relay, it's just bomb. It's pure power, speed, excitement, reaction, all those things that I remember having 30 years ago that are well and truly gone.
Well, I interviewed Matt Hauser, and he was telling me at the Commonwealths, which would he have been on the second or third leg, and he got into the water alongside Jonny Brownlee, and he was telling me that they had a little conversation beforehand where, I can't remember which way around it was, but one had said to the other, like, let's not drop each other in the water because we need someone to ride with. And it's almost like these individual alliances come into play as well. So they've got to be thinking on the feet and working well. Like, I can't remember which way around it is. Matt's a really strong swimmer, isn't he?
Unbelievable swimmer. Yeah.
So maybe he was saying to Jonny, well, I won't drop you on the swim, which is great, isn't it? That a 19-year-old says that to Jonny Brownlee.
Well, the good thing about it too is, and that's the pieces of tactics. I recall, and I'll get the year wrong, but it was 2000 and could be 11, I think, or 10 or 11, and I was training in Zurich with Ronnie Schultnick, and we're doing a big long ride one day, and the first ever relay race was on television. And I think it might have been in Lausanne, and we were sitting down at this cafe, and I was watching the screen, and I was like, this is awesome. I'd never seen the relay race before. And I remember Jonny Brownlee, and this is at the peak of the Brownlee power. Like, they were dominant, right? And it was the first time I'd ever seen Vincent Louis in my life. He looked like this little stocky, powerful athlete. And I remember Jonny and Vincent dived in the water together, and this Vincent Louis just went wham, like like this turnover on him his stroke rate was ridiculous. And Jonny was on his feet, and they got out, and Jonny kept attacking him on the bike, and Vincent would attack him, and they got on the run, and they ran this mile together, and they were just surging on each other. I've never been so enthralled in a race in my life. I'm like, this is the coolest racing I've seen, you know, and then they obviously tagged off. But I remember thinking the Brownlees, because the Brownlees at that time, they were just used to run away from everybody with their sheer fitness and power. But it was the first time I'd seen them vulnerable, and the first time young athletes at the time, being Vincent Louis, I think they believed they could beat the Brownlees over that distance, right? And they were throwing down, and that's the excitement I think the relay brings, and that was sort of the catalyst that what we thought Super League could bring to the sport of triathlon is this pure racing, you know, grit that everyone has a shot, and I don't care about names, you know, I don't care who you are, you know, you don't. I think Michael Dulst, our CEO, said it once. It's a very American thing in the sense that he said you don't win tomorrow's races, or you don't win tomorrow's games with yesterday's home runs. And that's sort of the attitude that we wanted to bring with Super League. It's about, I don't care what you've done. This is a new way of racing, and it's going to suit my style. I just need to nail all my stuff to perfection, and I will kill you. And that's what we wanted to do. And that's sort of what's developed, which is pretty cool.
So finally, what else have you guys got lined up after Arena Games for this year? Do you have plans stretching into the future, or is it a case of wait and see how this one goes and work from there?
We had two events. We had a big event in Neom set.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Yeah, and we had Jersey set. And basically, Jersey, we had a conversation with Jersey, and they were a bit apprehensive about people coming to the island again, and they said, look, and we said, look, let's just put it on hold till next year, and we'll run a virtual event to engage with the island. So they were happy, and the same thing with Neom. They were like, look, we're a bit uneasy about it. I said, look, same. Let's put it on till next year. I think that's been the most difficult. Difficult's the wrong word, because it hasn't been. It's actually been quite nice to be on holidays, but it's. I think the most frustrating is the unknown, and different places having different rules and going through this virus at different paces, I guess, you know, like and you know, America right now is the US. We own an event in Malibu, we bought last year, the Malibu Triathlon, that we're hoping to have in September. We're not going to have that this year, the first time in 35 years, and you know, it's America. We're sort of is over there, and we see a lot of what's going to happen next year post the Olympics. We're hoping there's a vaccine, but post the Olympics we'll be following the same thing we did this year with races in Oslo, in London. We're hoping for in Dusseldorf, in Jersey again, in Neom, Singapore, and there's one more being Malibu in the United States. So just take what we're going to do this year and put it next year. We'll still have Bali on. We've got 3 events, one in Toronto, one in Tempe, Arizona, and one in Salinas in Ecuador that we have, but we may run them as exhibition events and just have them for locals, because, you know, moving athletes around is going to be difficult. And I don't think we have to be, you know, thinking of the athletes first. I don't want any athlete that's prepping for an Olympic Games to be put in a position because of Super League that may upset their Olympic preparation, or they may get ill. So for us, we're sort of like, get to the Olympics, do whatever you have to do to be successful. We support you. Post the Olympics, we're here again. Let's rock and roll. And that's sort of how we're looking at it.
So that's the first I've heard of that then. London. You've got a London event lined up. Is this a world exclusive? Is this sneaking out there?
It's I shouldn't have.
Damn it, Chris! Am I going to have to edit this out now?
No, you can keep it in. We had a London event pre-COVID. We're still we what we've decided to do as an organisation was we raised last year post the series there was a lot of interest from investors that came in that liked what we were doing. They liked our audience demographic. I know we hear about that in triathlon a lot, but without blowing our own trumpet, Super League is the first entity that has truly been able to show through their digital content, through online, who that audience is and engage with them. We have the biggest engagement within the sport, and a lot of the brands and a lot of the cities are very intrigued with our audience base, especially the people playing, the corporates that we're bringing to our events. And so London for us, with our offices in London, we wanted to deliver an event in London. And I think, British triathlon, you have to have an event in the UK. You guys sit at the top of the world, and you have for quite some time in triathlon. And I think it's just not right to not have an event there. And London is the city to have it in. It's the Olympic city. It's amazing. So yeah, we're going to put it down at the old London course where the London Tri was. And I won't say where we're considering moving it, but yeah, we have an event, a course in London that we'd like to deliver on.
Awesome. Well, that seems like a pretty good place to leave it then. Bit of a trailer for a hopeful 2021 post Olympics, and good stuff. So wrap this up then. Let's talk about the logistics for this weekend. It's the 23rd and 24th of August in Rotterdam. Where can people watch it?
Well, actually, if you go to Super League website, superleaguetriathlon.com, it's going to be broadcast on all of our broadcast partners have taken it. So Fox Sport, I think, I may be wrong, I think it's either BBC Digital or, the button one you have over there.
Yeah.
But it's the first time ever we've gone free to air in Germany. So there's a big appetite for sports content.
So we're going to be live on TV. It's going to be
live on TV. Yeah,
awesome.
Yeah. So that's
I hadn't realised that.
Yeah, the footprint, our terrestrial TV footprint is just as big as our conventional events. Awesome. So it's live. Yeah. It's live here in Australia. So that's made me nervous because I'm like, hey, everybody, this is half esport, half. It's not a conventional triathlon. It's I'm apprehensive on how it's going to look, and interesting enough is because Sunset and Vine is a UK based production company, and you guys have just literally. We got this event planned. You guys have just brought in this quarantining rule, and anyone that leaves the UK now, when they come back, it's 14 days quarantining. So a lot of the stuff that we're originally taking and planning and bringing there, we're now doing out of the OB truck, and we're broadcasting into the UK. I'm doing the commentary with Will McCloy from Sydney. A lot of the digital graphics are being shipped from Singapore. So it's all these streams coming from all over to deliver this event. So
no pressure. No pressure.
No pressure.
Chris, this sounds more stressful than when you were racing.
Yeah. I probably prepare myself for a relay now. It's the same sort of pressure as the relay races, but no, it's I always get apprehensive. I always get a little bit nervous. Michael, my business partner and the CEO, is just calm and cool, and he's like, everything will be all right. He'd be a great poker player. Where I'm a little bit like, have we thought of this? Have we thought of this? And they're like, yeah, you brought that up yesterday. I'm just double check, triple check, quadruple check. So yeah, I've got my fingers crossed. I think it's going to be great. The team's amazing. We've thought through a lot, and it's just this last minute change with the quarantining, and that may affect the start list too, because some of the athletes we've been talking to, they're like, oh, I don't know if I want to come and do 2 weeks quarantine on the back end, when they come back to the UK. So we'll see. But a lot of them are already European based now anyway, and not in the UK. So we'll see.
And it could all change anyway by the weekend. So who knows, right?
Yeah, totally. We could have a vaccine by then.
All right, well, listen, Chris McCormack, thanks very much for joining us. It's been great to get a catch up, and hopefully we can get the audience all tuning in to watch Super League Arena Games this weekend. Good work for getting us some sport to watch, my friend.
Perfect. Great to chat, and thanks for having me on again.
So, bit of breaking news there then, hey? Super League Triathlon is coming to London, or very hopefully coming to London if we can negotiate our way through the pandemic. Great to have Mac back on the show. I love chatting with him. He's one of the great personalities of triathlon, and he's got such an extensive knowledge of all the athletes. Great stuff. So if you want to watch the Super League Tri Arena Games, I've just been looking for details of it being shown on the BBC, and I actually can't find any. So if you want to go to the Super League Triathlon website, you can register there. Just superleaguetriathlon.com/watch-live, and you can register, and it'll all be streamed live on our website on the day. So chance to watch some of our best athletes, and who knows, potentially even future Olympic champions as well, racing over the indoor Super League Arena format. So something completely different, and I'm really looking forward to watching how it goes. I've got to say, my gym's got those treadmills that he talks about, the self-powered banana-shaped ones, they're really quite comical to try and run quickly on. So it's going to be interesting to watch people trying to race over 1 kilometer on those. All right, guys. That just about brings us to the end of this week's show. To wrap this up, here are some discount codes and deals for you. Over at Precision Hydration, you can use the code OxygenAddict15 for 15% off your first electrolyte order. At peloton.cc, you can use the code OxygenAddict20 for 20% off high-performance sun protection for athletes.
And if you want to be entered into our competition to win a bundle worth £100 worth of Peloton sun protection for athletes, visit peloton.cc, pelotan.cc/OxygenAddict.
And at teamoxygenaddict.com, you get details of what we think is the most comprehensive triathlon coaching program for busy age groupers out there. If you're looking for a way to get a head start on your training and racing for next year, come and join us. Come and train and race it with the team. So remember, there's links in the show notes for all of these sponsors, so you don't have to remember them. And until next week, have a great, safe training and racing week. I'm Coach Rob Wilby, and you've been listening to the Oxygen Addict Triathlon Podcast. See ya.